Since cloning is something that is very important, and this is something we'll be doing almost always, let's take a look at how to go about cloning. Firstly, let's go back to the directory that we were working in during our last session. That is our branches. Okay, let's see what we have there. Now, these are the files we created during the last session. Let's see the hidden files and hidden file and directory. You can see them. Okay. Now let's check our Git status. I remember we had a file in our working area. Okay, our intention is not to do anything with this. I just want to be sure this is the right directory, our branches. Now, it is important we go check our GitHub account, right? We want to clone. Cloning is easy. Okay, now let's check our alias, git promote -v. Okay, this is our aliases. These are our aliases. This for HTTPS, this for SSH. Remember, we set up our SSH key and we added it to GitHub to enable us push, fetch, and do all sorts without requiring passwords or personal access tokens every now and then. Now that we have this, so let's see what we can do. We want to do a Git clone. Now, let's go to our GitHub account. This is our GitHub account. We have techdump.ca. This is the name of our organization. Now we have our branches updated a couple of hours ago. Okay, this is it. Now, we are trying to clone. So to clone, we need, depending on what approach we want to go about, it, how we want to go about it. It's either we want to use our URL or we want to use our SSH part. Okay, now the URL part, HTTPS, you see it here. If that's the route we want to go, which is the same as what we have up here. Or if we want to use the SSH key, we use this. Okay, we are going to clone using both the HTTPS, right, and the SSH part, right, just to show how we go about it. So, and it's even good because we are trying to clone this repository, right? We want two versions of it because in our next session, we want to look at Git merge and Git rebase, right? So to help us understand that better, we want to look at what we have here, right? And we'll create another branch out of what we have here, and we'll do a rebase with one, we'll do a merge with the other. Now I want to see how they both play out in the course of the work. Okay, now let's see. Okay, we have this. Let's see what we do. Okay, now this is what we have. Let me clear. Right? So I want to clone. So to clone, I'll say git clone, right? What URL am I trying to clone? What repository am I trying to clone? Now, am I going to use the URL, the HTTPS, right, to clone? Or I do intend to use the SSH part. Now, let's start by using the URL, the HTTPS, I mean. Yeah, the HTTPS, we are familiar with this, and we've even done a push with it. Now, remember when we checked our Git, let's look at that again. When we checked our Git remote -v, we'll see something. We'll see that this alias can only be used for fetching and pushing. And we also agreed from our last session that we can also use it to pull, because fetch is a component of pull. Okay? Now, so since this is established, we can all agree that we cannot use the alias to clone. But anyway, let's test it out. Let's say we are trying to clone, right? We are trying to clone this repository, right? This repository we have here. So we say git clone. See, it's not going to work. Git clone, and we say ob, right? Git clone, we say ob. Now we say, where do we want to put ob, right? We want to specify a file name that we want to put this repository in, because we are cloning, right? You want to clone as something. You want to put in a repository, right? So we want to put in a different directory. We can say ob, and what name do we want to call this new directory? We want to call it, we can say ob git merge, ob for git merge, because we want to have our branches, we want to use one for git merge, we want to use one for git rebase. Now, ob, we want to call the next one our branches, ob for git merge, Okay, this is not going to work, but it's just important to look at it, because we see you can use this for fetch, you can use for push, right? But we are doing a clone. Okay, so let's try before doing it right. Okay, so when we press enter, and what else? I want this file, this directory that is going to be created, I want it in home slash, right? I want it to be in home, right? Slash, okay, this is fine. So when I do enter, you see, repository ob does not exist. But does it really exist? Yes, it exists. But we are trying to do a clone, right? We're trying to do a clone, but it's saying it doesn't exist. So what do? Let us do it right. So this time around, we are going to copy our branches, right? The URL for our branches. Remember we get it. So let's even go to GitHub, because we might be cloning something we do not have this open. So let's go and try to pick it up from our, remember how we got here? We're in our branches repository, right? We could come in here. Since it's HTTPS, we could just copy this, but let's just go through where we find the SSH part, right? So we come in here, you can see HTTPS, right? We copy, okay? So it's a clone. Then we come here and remove this, right? This is what we used to do. But this time around, it's a clone we are trying to do. So you put the URL, okay? Then the space. We want it to go to a directory. We don't want it to be resident in this directory. We want it to have a new name inside home, right? Inside home, okay? If we wanted it within this directory, we could have just said, you have just left that, the name alone, right? But we want it inside a different directory, okay? So when we do enter, you see, cloning into home of EC2 user, right? EC2-user, And the name of the directory is going to be OB for Git merge, right? Now, because we used the HTTPS, right, we'll be required to put our username, which is something I know, but how do we get that? Let's see. We'll come up here. You can see our username is right here at the Mola route. We come here, right? We state the username. Now, what else will be required? It's asking for password, but because I'm using mobile XTEM, password will not work if I just put my password. I need to put my personal access token, which I have copied somewhere, right? To know how to generate personal access tokens, you can check one of the previous sessions we've had. So we have a personal access token, we copy it, right? We've copied our personal access token, then we'll put it here. Since my password will not show, I'll just right click once. I've done that, enter, you can see this has been cloned, right? Let us see, let's check it out. Let's check out our clone. Let's go to the parent directory, right? Once we go to the parent directory, you cd space dot, right? So we are at home. Let's ls home and see what we have there. You see, a new repository has been cloned, right? A new directory has been cloned out of our branches, and we'll call it OB for Git merge. Let's ls OB for Git merge and see what we have there. We are going to find exactly those files and directories we have, right? You see, OB for Git merge has everything that we have in the cloud for, let's see, let's confirm that here. OB for Git merge, look at it. We have .gitignore, we have app.java, we have this. Now, because .gitignore is hidden, so how do we make it show? So let's put -a, right? We want it to appear. You see, the hidden files now show up .git. And what happens is, once you clone, the directory you clone, you do not need to git in it again, because it comes with Git already in it, because it's a clone of what was in the cloud. Now, let's try to do a second clone for another directory, which we want to use for Git rebase, okay? Let's clear this. So how do we do that? But this time around, we do not want to use the URL. Let's try using the SSH part, right? So that we'll not be prompted to enter a password. So let's cd back into our branches. Let's do ls, right? This is the branch we are cloning from, our branches. So let's cd into our branches. Let's cd into our branches. It's going to be faster this time. So we are in our branches. We can do a Git clone, right? Remember Git clone. So what are we cloning? Let's go use our SSH path. So what's our SSH path? Come here to code. We want to use the SSH path, right? git@github.com, the name of the company, / our branches, the name of the repository. That's what we are trying to clone. Okay, we come here, we drop that here, right? Where do we want this clone to go to? What name of directory do we want to call it? We want to call it OB, right? For Git rebase. OB for Git rebase. So we can come in here because we do not want this directory created within this current our branches directory. We want it elsewhere. We want it as a standalone directory, right? So we can specify, because we know that the other directories are within the home, right? You can see home. They are within the home. That's where everything is created, right? So we want this also created in there. So I say home, right? Slash. So I want this new directory called OB for Git rebase, right? You know, we don't have it here right now. I want it cloned in there, right? You see, let's enter. Now, because we are cloning, it's telling us, oh, permanently added to hosts, to the list of known hosts, which is fine. So clone completed. We didn't need to put any username. We didn't need to put any password or personal access token because we had already set up SSH on our system and GitHub. Now, let's do ls, right, and see what we have. Okay, now we are still in our branches. Let's go home, right? And do cd to go home and ls from there. Now you see OB for Git rebase has been created. Okay, now that we've done this, let's ls -a. We'll see that this directory already has Git in it, right? So we'll be able to proceed with ease. All right, thank you everybody, and hope to see you in the next session.